So you've decided to make this next year the greatest of your life, that everything's going to change. Well, congratulations, so has everyone else. Yet the majority of people in a year's time will be looking back with regret, shame, and frustration because they failed. And I know that feeling all too well because I've been there. Year after year I told myself, this is the year where I'm gonna get this many subscribers, make this much money, make more friends, quit all my bad habits, fix my mental health, and consistently miss the mark.
It was always, oh, future Kenny is gonna have this much. Oh, by the end of 2019, I'll probably have like 10,000 subscribers at the least. And the work doesn't get put in, and I don't get lucky. And that future Kenny is me, and I feel like an idiot.
I've come to realize that the majority of these New Year's motivational style videos are nothing more than feel-good slop for the mediocre masses. Which is fine. I have absolutely no problem with those who want to be average if that is what they want to be. But if you're like me, you're not okay with that because you want to be great and you want to do great things. And by definition, greatness isn't found in the middle, only average. In my pursuit of this, I have found 9 rules that will ensure that this following year will guaranteed be your greatest. I mean, imagine looking back next December and instead of that usual regret that, ah shit, I fell short feeling, you look back and think, I fucking did it. Things are different now. I'm different. A study was done where they took a mouse and tied a spring to their tail to measure the force the mouse was pulling in a certain direction. And what they found is that if they wafted the smell of cheese towards the rat started to pull. I know, shocking. And the mouse was pulling decently hard because it wanted to go towards the cheese, towards the food, towards the pleasure. But what it found is that the mouse pulled harder when they wafted the smell of a cat behind the mouse. And as humans, we are exactly the same. We will work much harder to run away from pain or death or anything negative than we will if we're moving towards something good, pleasurable, positive. Therefore, while ideally, yes, you will have a positive and a negative why pushing you in a certain direction, you should probably add a little more effort in coming up with a concrete negative why as to why you want to achieve the goals you're going to set for this year. As the saying goes, if you are a tree or if your life is a tree, in order for your leaves to reach heaven, your roots must go down to hell. So before we even worry about the positives, you need to create an antithesis. This is the vision of the worst scenario. Imagine yourself a year from now, everything went wrong, you didn't do the things you set out to do, and think about all of the negative consequences. Not only that, but how they would make you feel, and take all of it and write it down on a piece of paper. You need to have a clear vision, a scene that you can go to time and time and again, read it, visualize it, feel the negative emotions generating you, because that is what is going to charge you forward. A lot of creators like to focus on the positives. A lot of motivational videos that you may or may not watch focus on the positives. When you get that Lamborghini and the girl and this, that, and the other. But to be honest with you, as I've found in my own life, especially at the beginning, going from 0 to 1, the fuel for the rocket ship that is you to enter orbit needs to have a negative charge. Whether it's the hero in a movie, the artist, the millionaire business owner, most of the time their origin story revolves them being in some metaphorical version of hell. And it was only through having that and having that idea in their mind that they could go back there if they don't do the things required, that they unlocked elite levels of discipline to actually do the fucking work required to make the goals possible. But there is something missing when you only go that route, because you don't have a positive vision of the future and a positive vision of your future self to imagine. Therefore, they're lacking half of the equation, which is why you also do need to have a positive why, which is a vision of your future self, the version of you that is required to achieve the goals you want to set by the end of the year. And also you need to understand that that version of you is not the version of you now, because if that was the case, you would have already achieved those goals. So whatever that is for you, it could be being the best husband and father to your children, it could be retiring your mother, it could be having $1 million in the bank account, it could be traveling the world on a whim whenever you feel like it, because you have that level of freedom and autonomy. And take a specific scene of that future vision and imagine yourself in that scene, but imagine yourself as that future self with all of the traits, mindsets, and wisdom that was required to make those goals possible. This is another thing I recommend you writing down and reading and visualizing almost every day. Because the more you think about that and visualize it, the more and more it's going to go from your conscious mind into your subconscious mind, and begin rewriting the code the same as if you were rewriting code on a computer, and that's slowly but surely going to turn you into that person. And the fun part about this is that you become that person before the results are even there. For example, if my why was I want to have 1 million subscribers and drastically change the life of 100,000 people, I would become the version of myself required for that before I hit 1 million subscribers and before I change 100,000 lives. It just takes reality a little bit of time to catch up with your internal state. The externals lag a bit. And once you have a loose vision of what that is, you need to set a core goal for this year. And it needs to be unreasonably big. It needs to create a pang of anxiety within you when you think about this goal that you set for yourself to have accomplished by the end of this year. Because what we tend to do is we set goals that are reasonable, goals we think that we can accomplish. But the thing is, we're thinking from the current version of ourselves and not the higher version of ourselves. Therefore, we're setting us up for these little, oh yay, I hit the goal that I kind of knew I was going to hit anyways. And it's somewhat like if you took a shark as a baby and put it in a small bowl. It's only going to grow to the size of that bowl. Wouldn't you want to put yourself in a bigger bowl so you can grow into a bigger, more capable shark? And with that goal, we can move to rule number 2, which is create a goal bridge. And that's where you take the timeline of this next year, and the end of that timeline is the core goal being accomplished. This core goal needs to be one thing above all else. It's common for us to go into the year thinking, I want to have a 6-pack and $100,000 in the bank account and bench press, add 50 pounds to my bench press and get another girlfriend and read 300 books and meditate for 500 hours. But really all that's going to look like is this. You're going to be over here with all these different goals, working in all these different directions, and you're not actually going to make much progress in a single given direction, whereas if you commit to one core goal, you will make dramatic amounts of progress towards it. You've already told me that you don't want to be mediocre. You want to be great. And understand that that means you cannot perform the same as the average people. And what do the average people do? Balance. They try to balance everything out. I was glancing through some New Year's type videos before I made this one, trying to get a feel of what people are saying, and I watched one from a major YouTuber, and one of the first things he said was balance, which is perfectly fine for that creator to say because he makes content for the average person. He wants that video to have 1 million plus views, and everyone just kind of feels good, gets a little dopamine release from it, makes little incremental changes in their life, feels a little bit better, but ultimately are still in average. Like Hendrik said, they not like us. So choose something beyond all else and use some reasoning behind it. For example, yes, it would be nice for you to add 50 pounds to your bench press, but is that better than adding $50,000 to your bank account? Probably not. So set a goal that, if accomplished, all other goals are either irrelevant or are accomplished as means to get to that one core goal. And then you need to do what the opposite of what most people do. Most people set a big goal in the future and then take it day by day, just kind of winging it, thinking about what they should do to work towards that goal. But the goal's so far in the future that it's really hard to know exactly what you should be doing every day. Therefore, often we fall short, we make mistakes, we go in the wrong direction, and ultimately set ourselves up for failure. We're not going to do that. And then what you're going to do is set a 6-month checkpoint. It doesn't have to be hyper specific, but it needs to be something that you know that if you're in that spot around the middle of this upcoming year, you are on track for the core goal. And then this is when it gets specific. You are then going to set a 1-month goal, and then you're going to set a week goal, and then you're going to set a day goal. And every day from now on, you are going to write down 1, 2, 3 levers that, if accomplished, puts you on track for the week, which puts you on track for the month, which puts you on track for the 6 months, which puts you on track for the year. This is how you guarantee results. But crucial thing is that you need to make these goals input based. They need to be measurable metrics, not external outcomes that have factors that are beyond your control. For example, it would be a little silly for me to say, okay, in a month, I would like to have 10,000 subscribers because I can't control the YouTube algorithm. It could completely kill my channel, or it could blow me up and give me 50,000 subscribers. There are factors outside of my control in that. But what I can do is say, in this next month, I'm going to upload 6 high quality pieces of content that are better than my last, because I think that is the best input for me to put in to shoot for that outcome. And then it becomes infinitely easier to set your week goal and your day goals. And it removes the stress of thinking about things outside of your control. And once you have that, you will be prepared for rule 3. You have to go all in. And I know what you're thinking. Oh no, Kenny, I'm already ready. I've already committed. I'm ready to go all in. How many times have you said that to yourself? How many times have you heard your friends say that, or heard people say, oh, I'm locking in this time, this is my year, I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z, and then they fall short? And there are 3 ingredients you need in order to truly go all in. First being, burn the boats. You've probably heard the story of when Hernan Cortez arrived to the New World, to the unknown, and he famously ordered for his ships to be burnt, because he knew that the only way that himself and his men will fight to their fullest potential, namely against the Aztecs, was to completely eradicate the idea of a plan B. And because he did this, they did fight to their full potential, and within 2 years, they fucked up the Aztecs. The only way to truly go all in on something is to remove any other exit route, any other plan B, any other safety net. For you, it may be living with your parents, it may be the comfortable job you're in, the path of education you're on that you don't truly want to do or believe in. For me, it was that. I was going to community college, I was still living at home with my parents, and it wasn't until I dropped out of school, moved to a new city, that I completely burned my boats and were forced to move down this new path of life that I chose. And understand that this idea that you're risking a lot of things or you're sacrificing these things is a false belief that you need to break. It is not any more risky to stay in a regular, comfy job, 9 to 5, that could replace you with AI at a moment's notice, that could replace you with another employee at a moment's notice, than it is to quit that and go all in on your dreams. Both are risky, it's just that one has a much higher ceiling, potential upside to you doing so. The next part, which is honestly the hardest, I think, for all of us, is cutting off the crabs. I see this all the time on self-improvement content. Well, I'm in self-improvement, but how do I convince my friends to get on self-improvement so they can do it with me? Because, don't get me wrong, that is the best scenario. It would be great to have friends that we're all working on the same things together, we're all motivated together. The harsh reality is the majority of people are destined to be in the middle. They're destined for average, they're destined for mediocrity, and as hard as you try to persuade and pursue pulling them out of the mud with you, you need to remember what Jesus said in the Bible. Don't throw pearls to swine because they will trample on them. The pigs do not understand the value of pearls. Therefore, just as your friends do not understand the value of the path you're trying to get them on, and you're going to waste far too much of your time and mental energy and resources trying to pull them up. That doesn't mean don't try at first, of course. Maybe they will listen to you. Maybe you will get lucky and have people on your journey. Most of us don't. But if not, are you seriously going to let social validation from a group of mediocres prevent you from the life you desire? Because the thing is, you will need to separate yourself from those people pretty much entirely. Because the people unconsciously act as crabs in a bucket. If they see you trying to crawl out, do better than them, they will subconsciously work to pull you back in. It could be your best friend. You could love him to death. He's so great. He's so funny. I love going out and drinking with him or playing games with him or watching sports with him. Da-da-da-da. It doesn't fucking matter. There was a time in my life where I realized the majority of people do not want to see you do better than them. And it was, funny enough, when I got my teeth fixed. Growing up, I had very separated teeth. I looked like SpongeBob. They were a little yellow. And I did Invisalign, the braces, for a year and a half, and they got all nice and straight. Then I got them filed. Then I started doing whitening strips, and it changed the way I talked. I started talking more with my mouth and teeth and smiling more. And I remember one of my friends saying, "We get it, bro. You have good teeth. You don't have to show it off." And I was like, what? I thought you were my friend. I thought you were supporting me. You wanted me to do good. And if you're willing to try to pull me down on something so trivial as my teeth, what are you gonna do when I actually start accomplishing real world things? But there is a light at the end of the tunnel, because after you cut off your friends and enter this valley of loneliness while you're grinding alone, eventually your progress starts to attract friends again. But here's the thing, they are the very friends that you truly desire, the like-minded individuals that are going to help you, motivate you, teach you, and will result in further progress in your life. But the thing is, the only way for you to get here is to go through this. Because if you're not willing to cut off the friends that want you to get on the game, or that put negative thoughts in your mind, or want you to go out and drink, or want you to go watch some sports, then why would you deserve all this progress anyways? So in closing on this, in a perfect world, you will have some people around you to help. But for the majority of people, that's not the case. So if you have to do it alone, do it alone. But once you do those two things, you are ready for the final part of going all in, and that is making a conscious commitment. Because let's be real, you're watching this video for an emotional charge, for motivation, and that's perfectly fine. if you leverage this motivation you have right now to make a commitment that you will stick to the rest of this year, even though your emotions are going to be fluxing, they're going to be going up and down. I didn't understand this for years and years and years. I just kept consuming more and more self-improvement content, podcasts, things to make me positively motivated, things to make me negatively motivated, and I was wondering why my progress was just in these weird bursts and there was all these lulls, and I was honestly suffering more than I was succeeding. And that's because I kept having to learn the same lesson over and over and over, and that lesson was make the commitment once, consciously, intentionally, promise it to yourself, promise it to your God, and then begin working to shift into that version of yourself where these outcomes are the default, where that discipline, where that focus, where that work, where that income, where that social status is the default. And this is why it is actually pretty simple to get ahead of 99% of people. You just need to go all in, give it everything you've got for 1 year. And I promise you this year is going to go by faster than the last. And then you will be ready for rule 4. Go on a brain diet. Just like how your body is shaped by the food you feed it, your mind is shaped by the inputs you feed it. And an input is literally anything you allow to enter your conscious mind. It's any content you consume, conversations you have, thoughts you think, music you listen to. The mind is somewhat like an iceberg. You have the conscious mind. This is the part of the iceberg that is above sea level. You can see it. It's everything you're perceiving currently, whether it's your vision, audio, thoughts in your head, feelings of your body, anything like that. And that makes up around 5% of your mind. The other 95% is the subconscious mind. And not only is this where the majority of your thoughts come from, but it's also where the majority of your actions come from, because we're not in this perfect meditative conscious state at all times. We're doing a lot of things unconsciously. Therefore, because your subconscious directs your actions and your actions create your life, the subconscious is the silent architect of the very reality you are in right now. So when you talk to that negative friend that's always in a bad mood and always has stuff to complain about, that negative energy goes from your conscious into your subconscious and then rewrites some of the code in your subconscious to make you more negative. It's the same thing with music. It's the same thing with content you consume on your phone. Therefore, in order to guarantee that the majority of our actions are going to be positive towards our goals, we need to go on a diet. We need to cut out the junk food of the brain. And of course, you want to replace the junk food with healthy food, healthy inputs, reading the books and the podcasts and the YouTube videos, and having conversations with good people and all these different things. But you also need to ensure that the things you allow to enter your conscious mind and then go into your subconscious are directed towards the goal you have set. Because a lot of self-help content online is just fluff. It's just surface level advice for all these different goals, and 80% of them don't really matter in terms of what your core goal is anyways. And like if you were on a diet and wanted to lose weight, you wouldn't just cut out junk food and replace it with healthy food, but you would ensure that you're not eating too much so that you can lose the fat on you right now. Because just as you can consume a lot of junk food and feel overloaded and lethargic, you can consume too much healthy food for your brain and end up overwhelmed and lethargic. And beyond that, just like our stomachs need time to digest food, you need to have times in your day for mental digestion. Because when those things are entering your subconscious mind is going to work. It's taking all these different inputs and bits of information it's been holding on to help you with the goals that you are moving towards. But if you are in a constant state of consumption, there will never be an opportunity for the subconscious to surface these new ideas or answers to your problems, because your conscious mind is already filled with all the stuff you're feeding it. Therefore, you need to schedule times in your days for no and or low amounts of input. This is why everyone says they get their best ideas when they're in their shower, because for most of them, it's the one time of the day they're not on their fucking phone. This is things like going out on a walk, just sitting and meditating for a little bit, laying out in the sun. But be sure that you are prepared to record these realizations, these answers, these thoughts when they come, otherwise you're just going to forget them. But in order for you to become better at observing your own thoughts, to find these things, and to be more present in your interactions, and to be more focused in your day-to-day life, and to remain clear and concise towards your goals, is the next rule: increase your metacognition. Metacognition is defined as one's ability to be aware of his own awareness, to think about his own thoughts. It is the trait that makes you more aware, more focused in your work and in conversations, and most importantly, more present. Because if this is going to be the greatest year of your life, you want to actually experience it, right? And part of that is living deeply in the current moment that you are in, not just looking ahead. And the single best exercise for this is a specific form of mindfulness meditation. I've been doing it for years, and it was the catalyst to change my life and my mental health, which is why I created both my free 5-day guided series in the description or my 30-day full meditation series, Conscious Catalysts, also in the description. One of the biggest mistakes that I've made over and over and over my journey is that I've defined myself by my best days, by the most optimal day where I have all these great accomplishments on YouTube and I was so productive that day and I had such a good mental health and all these things, But the truth of the matter is all that was doing is setting me for failure when the next day came and it wasn't as good. Because the truth is, you are not your best days. These are merely glimpses at your potential. You are the bottom line that you let yourself fall to. And not only is this the true you, but this is where your success is built. On your worst day, when you're tired, when you're demotivated, when things just keep going wrong, it's what you do in spite of that defines you and your results. Which means in order to keep this to a certain level, you need to set a bottom line for yourself. You need some non-negotiables. And this is a very dangerous trap, and it's the one that all of the average and mediocre people fall into. They focus on the externals and let the externals define them, and then they're in mental turmoil when that drops. Whereas truly high-achieving people pursue an internal change, slowly raising that lowest bar of yourself, because they know that this is what guarantees true results over time. This is why drugs like Ozempic are so popular, because fat people, who are fat people externally and internally, don't have to change internally to stop being fat. They just take this miracle drug, and then what happens when they stop taking the miracle drug? The internal self manifests the same results and they get fat again. So going into this year, you have to set some form of non-negotiables, the minimum bar. For me, that is a certain time I wake up every day, meditating every day, praying every day, avoiding certain kinds of foods, avoiding certain bad habits, and finally, which is actually the next rule, time-blocked deep focus every day. I've come to a weird realization over the past few years, and that is that the majority of people, including myself, don't know how to actually work, don't know how to actually focus. Because 99% of jobs do not require it, but the 1% of work that gets you to where you want to be in life, if you want to be a highly achieving person in any endeavor, is the ability to do deep work. And I say time blocked because it is idiotic to trust yourself to just wing it every single day and get exceptional results. It's what I did for years and years on end. I would have this loose goal in my mind, and I would just wake up and be like, okay, I might do this and this. Whereas now, I block out a specific time every single day that is dedicated to the one lever, the one workabout focus session that puts me on track for all the goals that I created in my goal bridge that ideally you also have now. Focus, while it is a skill that you can level up, boiled down is not doing distraction. Therefore, deep focus is a state of doing nothing else except the one thing that you should be working on in that allotted time. What happens is over time, you begin to enter the state of flow, which is a state where you're in the zone. Everything is just flowing from you. Pause. And you begin operating at your highest potential. Think about when you're playing a game and you enter that flow state and your reaction time is perfect. You know exactly what you're doing. Your win rate or your KD or whatever the heck is the metric for that game is higher than average because you entered flow. It's the same thing with athletes. World-class basketball players aren't consciously thinking of the dribbles, the passes, the shots they do. It is in a state of flow. It's the same thing with fighters. They aren't consciously thinking, okay, I'm gonna do this punch and this punch, then this block and this kick. No, they are in flow state, in real time, adapting to the things coming at them, and often are performing their best because of it. And the best way to ensure that you are going to enter this sacred state when it's time to sit down and do these deep focus, deep work sessions is by ensuring that you are in the perfect balance of difficulty with your skill level or your ability. Because if it's too difficult, you become anxious or overwhelmed. But if it's too easy, you get bored. And also, it's just a waste of time. You're not pushing yourself. But if you make your work, your objective for the day, just slightly above your current skill level, that is going to push you into flow. And as you can see, over time, your skill level will increase and your ability to do difficult tasks will increase. And what's great about flow is it's kind of this self-fulfilling cycle, because you do the work, you enter flow state, you get some dopamine releasing, which increases pleasure from the work, therefore you do more work, and get further flow state, and the cycle goes on. And especially in these kinds of states, you need to be following the next rule: creation over consumption. Whether it's writing, making online content, coding, anything like that, you need to focus on creating new things compared to consuming stuff, even if it's stuff that helps you to create those things. Because if you shift from a consumer mindset to a creator or a producer mindset, you instantly put yourself ahead of 80% of the population, because 80% of any given market embodies the mentality of a consumer, only 20% of a creator or a producer. And if you're ambitious, you want to be successful, you want to accomplish great things, it is going to require some form of creation. And speaking specifically in my world, the creator economy of online content, this market is poised to double in size by 2027. People are sick of the mainstream educators and the mainstream producers that have had a stranglehold on the world, the influence, the power, the economy for far too long, and thus they are looking for unique, individualistic creators online, of course. This is why I love what I do specifically so much, because if I do consume something such as a book, I can take a lesson I've learned, a statistic I read, an insight I got into a piece of content for my YouTube channel. If you're into coding, you can take something you've consumed and turn it into an idea for a software. If you're an employee for a corporation, you can take something you consumed and turn it into an idea for maybe a new structure in your department of that said corporation, which will result in typically you making more money. Regardless of what it is, creation and all the little skills within it is the greatest skill stack for you to learn moving forward, especially if you want to be achieving financial success by the end of this year. And if you're interested in doing specifically what I do, which is creating compelling content about the things I'm authentically interested in, I'm not creating brain rot content for kids or putting on a false guru facade to scam 16-year-olds into buying an agency course, and you like the idea of having the time freedom, the location freedom, the financial freedom that comes with having a one-person hyper-profitable business that's built off a personal brand, that is built through creating content, namely on YouTube, you can check out the link in the description to my free 7-day creator challenge that I am doing, because I want to help more people that are interested in this take that first step. And what better way to start off the year than to learn the very skills that have absolutely changed my life. But finally, the one thing that is going to be the true difference maker that will change the trajectory of where you're going by the end of the year, instead of being in the same place or worse off, is the actual actions you take. The things you do, not learning about the things, thinking about the things, watching videos about the things, or talking about the things with your friends. No, doing the damn things. And the biggest trap that you will fall into when trying to do this is by chasing best over better. Because you're going to be looking up towards that higher version of yourself, the people you look up to, that core goal you've set, and you're going to think, wow, I want to do that. And you're just going to think that you can think your way to getting over there and then just jumping up. But in reality, you're going to fall back down on your face. And this was the main thing that caused me to fall short year after year, is that I took very limited amounts of action, when in reality what I needed to be doing is taking ruthless amounts of action. I needed to view inaction as equivalent to death in order to keep me on the path I actually wanted to be on, and I didn't. And that's why I fell short and failed over and over and over again. And that is why you need to chase, instead of best, like trying to do this and just think your way to a big accomplishment by the end of the year, pushing things off, is that you need to chase better. It's like the pottery study. A professor took two groups of students and gave them different objectives. One group was to make one piece of pottery as perfect as possible, and they had the entire semester to make this one piece of pottery. The other group was tasked with making as many pieces of pottery as possible, and what they found at the end of the year is that the group that made the most pieces made the best piece by the end of the semester. Because in terms of actions and accomplishments and results, you cannot go from 0 to 100. You have to go from 0 to 1 to 2 to 5 to 7 all the way to 100. And more often than not, 0 to 1 is actually the hardest part, is just taking that first step forward. So I pray that I've said enough in this video to get you committed to actually take action on the things you want to do, because now you have the roadmap, you have all the habits and things you need to do. But that's all just in your mind. That's all just thinking about it. As of right now, it's nothing more than mental masturbation until you take that first step. Go from 0 to 1, because they were constantly taking action and getting the reps in and pursuing mastery, whereas the other team was just hyper-focused, overthinking, perfectionisming their way to that single piece of pottery that wasn't good enough. That is it, my friend, the catalyst that you will be thinking of a year from now when you reflect on the immense amounts of progress and development you've made over the past year. Unless you continue half-assing it. In that case, this will be the moment that you think about as you kick yourself for not taking this video seriously.
Hopefully one day I can look back and just be like, I did it.
The choice is yours, and if it matters, I believe in you. Not in a corny way, but literally the fact that you have made it to the end of this video and heard me out already shows that you're different from everyone else, and that you're destined for something like this. I will be in your corner, but it is your fight. Time to get to work. But if you still feel like you're a little too distracted, or there's too many options, or you're not sure what your core goal is, or there's too many opportunities ahead of you, click the video on the screen right now so we can clarify and fix that. Thank you for watching. Hope this helped. Love you. Bye-bye.